you have, from a Lightning to USB-C, you can charge back there. Then obviously Wi-Fi, password DigiMarcon 2025 using the Hyatt Conference Wi-Fi network. And about 2 weeks after the conference concludes, everything will be available on demand. Also, the event app. I'm enjoying the event app. The more and more I use it, you can find other attendees here. You can learn more about speakers. You can connect on LinkedIn. You can send messages. So make sure using the event app as well for the conference. And then what's going on today? Today's a focus on master classes, opening up here with the overview, which we'll get through here pretty quickly because I want to get the speakers on stage. So we're going to have master classes after I'm done until noon, 12 p.m. Then we're going to have a networking luncheon, same procedure if you were here yesterday. If not, lunch and food will be available in the lobby there, and then on the other side is a big open room to sit down, enjoy lunch, sit at a table. I had a fantastic conversation yesterday at the table over lunch. That's a lot of times where the magic happens at these conferences, so take advantage of that. We got more master classes, 1:15 to 3:30, and then we end with a farewell cocktail reception. If you missed it yesterday, the DJ was laying down the beats, so make sure you show up to that reception. They did a great job here. Everybody gets plenty of drink tickets as well, which isn't at every conference, so make sure you're taking advantage of that. So that was an overview kind of what's happening today. So let's look at the opening morning session here. What does that overview look like? We're going to get started here with Mike Sedita. Very excited to learn more about the value of content, consistency, etc. So it'll be a great presentation there. Afterwards, we're going to have Albert Donaldson talking a little bit about digital transformation. I believe we might even have a surprise guest after Albert coming up. I don't want to give too much away. We'll have someone else coming to talk about a little bit of SEO, a little bit of masterclass there before we get into the networking luncheon at noon. And then we'll get into our masterclass here. Is everybody ready? We're going to bring up the first speaker here. So I'm going to welcome Mike Sedita to the stage here and hand over the clicker to him, which is kind of like passing the baton here, so you officially take over. Mike, awesome. Looking forward to it.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. If I come down here, am I going to mess anybody up? I move around a lot, so I will tell you the surprise speaker is not going to be the CEO from Astronomer, that is for sure. I'm going to go through my presentation and try to leave some time for questions at the end. And we'll just kind of dive right into it. I know you guys have probably gotten a lot of information over the past couple days, so we'll jump right into who I am and what I do, and we'll get into it. So the topic of my presentation, first and foremost, Mike Sedita. I'm the founder of 16W Media Group. That is my Chief Marketing Officer, Norman. You will see many gratuitous pictures of Norman. Some of them might actually pertain to this slide. Some of them might just be a picture that I was like, oh, you're so cute. But the topic of my presentation is the value of content marketing in a cluttered space. And my fiance and I talk about the shiny object society that we live in. We have this ADHD society where people are on TikTok and Twitter or X and Facebook, and they're jumping around and they see something, they scroll through it, they look at it, and then they forget about it a few minutes later. So it really has to be something that's engaging for them, enough for them to retain it. So you might not remember someone you meet in this meeting, but you might remember a cat video that you saw on TikTok and of a cat making a funny face. So we want to try to figure out a way for brands to be able to get through that cluttered space, that spaciness, and be able to resonate with consumers so that their brand is remembered. And we're going to do that. We're going to talk about through content marketing.
We don't want to miss any word you're saying, but it seems like the mic isn't working over here, so we're going to switch out real quick.
I'm not enough to begin with.
But we're live streaming this.
Okay.
We're recording it. We don't want anybody to miss a word that you're saying.
Let's swap out.
Check. Oh wow, I'm much louder now. I apologize in advance. Okay, so hopefully we got all that. I'm not going to backtrack on. We're all distracted enough as it is, especially if we have a couple cups of coffee. So what we'll cover in the entirety of the presentation, just to kind of table set, a little bit about my personal and professional background, what we do now with 16W Media Group, how we go about buying ads, the way we look at advertising, Some of the stuff I've done historically with brands I've worked with, a little bit about marketing history, types of advertising, the importance of consistency in content, what some of the consumer response is, and then to give you guys a couple of case studies on building a media plan and how we look at that for a brand, both large and small. And then obviously the big thing a lot of times with businesses is allocating your budget. That's always like the $1 million question. We'll talk about some tools we use for doing that, and then how we might be able to help you or help some of your partners that might need our service or can work together in that regard. Okay, a little bit about me personally. I'm 53, I've been divorced twice, so if you're here for relationship advice, you are in the wrong room. If you're here for marketing information, I can help you with that. I currently live in Apollo Beach with my fiance Casey and her 2 boys, Ethan who's 18 and Evan who is 15. Casey is an event planner with a company called Minto. They're a home builder, they build retirement communities, and we work together through the agency where we help clients with their marketing, but now we've also incorporated brands that want to do launches and events, so we build in her business to that too, so we work in conjunction with one another. Okay, a little bit about my background, where I've been and where I'm going, hopefully. I grew up in New Jersey, if you can't tell. Usually in the first 3 seconds, someone sees me move my hands or hears my accent and kind of knows where I'm from. Lived there for a long time. I lived in Atlanta for 2 stints. Loved it so much from 94 to 97 during the Olympics that I moved back from 08 to 2019. Lived in those 2 places, New Jersey and Atlanta, most of my life, and then I moved to Tampa and I decided to move every year. So I've lived in New Tampa, Safety Harbor, Wesley Chapel, Tampa Palms, back to Wesley Chapel again, and now I live in Apollo Beach, so it's a nice, quiet, little sleepy retirement area. I've always been an animal lover since I'm a kid, since I had that 1970s comb over. That's my grandmother's dog, and I'm a bulldog guy. I've had bulldogs for the past 20 years. Starting from left to right, Red was a certified therapy dog, and then from him we had Mac and Mia. I have Eli there with the weird look on his face. He's always had that weird look. Never name your dog after the starting quarterback of the team that you root for, because every time you yell at the TV, the dog thinks he crapped on the carpet and he's in trouble. And then you see Norman up there at the top giving you a little high five, and that's Maggie, our ADHD golden doodle. She represents everything that's wrong with marketing. She can't focus on anything, but she keeps Norman on his toes. And Norman just turned 9. I'm also a big sports guy. I grew up right near the Meadowlands in New Jersey, so I'm a big Giants fan. As you can see, the aforementioned Eli Manning, the infamous helmet catch. I'm a Knicks fan. I had TBS as a kid, so somehow I ended up a Braves fan. Fortunately, I lived there for a long time. I was there during the World Series, and I ended up becoming friends with Mark Wohlers, who was the closer on the mound when the Braves won the World Series in '95. So I'm a big sports guy too. That's the personal stuff. The corporate background stuff, I might not look it in this get-up that I have on, but I spent 20 years in corporate finance. So I worked as a mutual fund trader for what was Bank of America, that was Nations Bank, that then became Bank of America. I ran a financial services call center for an insurance company that was like adult daycare, managing a bunch of kids that just got out of college and a bunch of older people that were trying to ride it out till the end. From that, I became an efficiency expert. So through financial operations, I was kind of like, if you've ever seen the movie Office Space, the Bobs that come in and look at everything and kind of figure out what works and what doesn't work. I was one of the Bobs. So my job was to go in and from a functional operations standpoint, say, hey, look, if you fix this and fix this, we save money. So I saved insurance company that I worked for probably about $5 or $6 million over a 3-year window in staffing and procedural stuff. And I was promoted to the very cool title of Director of International Annuities for an offshore annuity company, and that truly was the worst job I've ever had in my entire life. I managed operations centers in Hong Kong, Dubai, Malta, Italy, Bermuda, and I was based out of Atlanta. That's how I got back to Atlanta. And I'm aging myself a little bit, but my BlackBerry would literally go off around the clock. I'd wake up at 6 a.m. and I'd have 50 emails from Hong Kong. I'd get through those, I'd have 20 from Malta, and it sucked, it was miserable. But I didn't have the balls to quit. I didn't have the balls to walk away from a 6-figure income. I was kind of stuck in this world, like a lot of entrepreneurs are, that have this itch to want to do something, but don't know how to get there. And then it took divine intervention and the real estate market crash of 2007, 8, 9, that window. And this company that I was working for was hemorrhaging money. Like they couldn't figure out what they were doing. And they said, we want you to move from Atlanta back to New York City. And I said, I really don't want to. I don't want to shovel snow ever again. I don't want to be in that environment ever again. So I had a friend who I played co-ed softball against in Alpharetta, Georgia. And she said, I know a media buying agency. I had no idea what media buying was. I had no clue that the world even existed. She said, why don't you come and see if this is something that you can do? And I said, all right. This company gave me a severance package. She said, but listen, it takes 6 months. You're gonna have to make contacts. You're gonna have to do all this stuff. Just be patient, blah, 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 whatever it was. And they sat me in a conference room with a landline phone and a laptop computer. And I started calling chief marketing officers and making contacts. And Newell Rubbermaid happened to be right down the street. And if you don't know Newell Rubbermaid, besides the containers that they make, they control Graco baby products, Dymo label makers. And in the first 6 weeks of doing this, I secured a $2 million ad budget from Newell Rubbermaid's Dymo label makers. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go get a sleeve of tattoos of all my dogs. I'm gonna grow a beard. I'm never gonna wear a suit ever, ever again. And it changed my life. And since that point in time, I've started 2 multi-million-dollar ad agencies in the last 15 years. I had a company in Atlanta with a partner, and when my parents were getting sick here in Florida, I knew we needed to separate. I needed to start another agency. So 16W Media Group was born in 2016, and it's been around for the past 7, 8 years, 9 years. And I moved to Florida and kind of never looked back. 16W Media Group, I do a various group of things. Media buying, client, depending on the client, depending on their need, etc. I originally started something called the Good Neighbor Podcast, which I've rebranded into the Branding Highway Podcast. You can look it up on YouTube. Our following is, between all our socials, between all my socials, me and Norman, we have about 25,000 followers on our channel. That's YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. You can follow me on LinkedIn. You can find it through the app, or you can just look up Mike Sedita. And then the other thing we do, because I could no longer travel to New York to meet with marketing, like publishing companies, or go to Vegas for trade shows and do that whole vibe, taking care of my folks, I decided to focus locally and working on small, medium-sized businesses here in a market. So we started Wiregrass Living, Cross Creek Living, 54 West Life. You see some copies of a couple of them here on your table. Okay, what we do with the publications is we go into neighborhoods and we make local families famous. We tell their story, how they met, why they have 10 kids and 6 chickens and 4 dogs, or whatever their story is. And businesses locally that want to target affluent single-family homeowners, it's a great in to communities that are tough to get to. But we couple it with meta ads, with display ads, ways to really get you that broad, consistent reach in an area to focus on your brand being in front of people. And right now, Casey and I have 5 publications. One in Wesley Chapel, New Tampa, Odessa, and Land O'Lakes is 54 West. We have one in Tampa Palms that we're kind of feeling out, and then we're launching a new one in Waterset. We're still workshopping the name. I'm okay with that. She's kind of kiboshed it. So we're going to see where we go with that. But that's the breadth of what we do locally. And the brand, Norman is really the brand. He's pretty famous up in Wesley Chapel if you're ever up in that area. Why 16W? Is anybody here from New Jersey? Is anybody from the Northeast? Okay. If you're from New Jersey and you live outside New Jersey, the first thing people always ask you is, what exit are you from? And it's a reference to the Turnpike or the Garden State Parkway. So 16W is, if you get off exit 16 off the New Jersey Turnpike, if you go east, you are in the Lincoln Tunnel in New York City, and if you go west, you drive actually right through Giant Stadium or the MetLife Stadium parking lot. I grew up walking distance to Giant Stadium as a kid. My mom would drop me and my friends off at the stadium at 9 o'clock in the morning. We would hang out, go to a Giant game, and we could walk home. That's how close we were. So 16W is an homage to where I'm from. I live here in Florida. If you guys know the difference between a Yankee and a damn Yankee, a Yankee is someone who comes to Florida to visit Clearwater Beach and then goes home and goes above the Mason-Dixon line. A damn Yankee is me. I moved to the South. I liked it. I stayed. 16W comes into play 2 ways. Either I meet people that say, oh, you're from the Northeast, you have this pace, you can tell I have this pace, I've had 3 cups of coffee. Or there's people in Florida that don't really want to deal with people from the Northeast, so I get some of that too. But I own it, that's what we do, that's who we are, and we try to own our personal brand to make sure we're coming across authentic, because that's the big thing. That's the thing we notice with a lot of businesses. If you speak in your authentic voice, it resonates with people that want to do business with you. A little background on what media buying is, just a little quick educational thing. So media buying, I don't do creative, I can't draw a picture. If you ask me to draw a person, it would be a stick figure. I'm terrible at art, I'm a math guy. Media buying is the other side of that. How you go and choose the mediums you present out. So I said I've worked with some bigger brands. Dymo is on there, label makers. I've worked with Mechanics Wear Gloves. If anybody does any work on cars or contracting work, Mechanics Wear Gloves is in like Home Depot and Lowe's and that type of thing. So they're a pretty well-known name. Nicholas Air is a private airline, kind of like NetJets or one of those type of guys. They're based out of Mississippi. We help them target ultra affluent people that have 10 grand to jump on a private jet and go wherever. And then the biggest one I've ever worked with was Welch's Fruit Snacks. You guys know that, you've seen them in the supermarket. We did their back to school campaign for 3 years. We'll get into some how we built their plan, but that's one of the biggest clients I've had. So I've worked with some names you know. Places I've put people. So really cool. I wrote a script that Howard Stern read on the radio, which is pretty cool, for a company called Dietz & Watson. They're in the Northeast. They're like a cold cut, like a sandwich meat company. I also did a diet shake supplement here in St. Pete, actually, that wanted to be on This Is Us, which was a pretty popular show. So I've placed media in every medium: TV, radio, out of home. Out of home generally categorizes every billboard you see, every bus wrap, every bus stop, anything you see, gas pumps, any of that would be considered out of home. Print, obviously, it's in front of you right on your table. Digital, mobile, direct and shared mail. So if it's out there to be bought, I've bought it. We've done guerrilla marketing where we put street teams in places for certain brands. Everything is designed around customer-centric need to build a plan accordingly for them to get the most effective reach. But we've bought everywhere, okay? The importance of advertising. So I hear a lot of conversations. I go to a lot of networking events and talk to a lot of small to medium-sized business owners, and they tell me what they do, and we talk about the types of advertising and why it's so important. And I always try to bring up John Wanamaker. Does anybody know who John Wanamaker is? Okay, so John Wanamaker was a former Postmaster General. He started department stores in the 1900s. Okay, but he has a really famous marketing quote. One of his quotes has been around for 100 years. Does anybody know that marketing quote? No? Guys, nobody's awake. Get another cup of coffee. His marketing quote is, "Half of the money I spend on advertising is wasted. The trouble is I don't know which half." And it has been true for a long, long time. Digital marketing has really mitigated that statement, okay? Not 100%, there's standard operating procedures and things you can put in place to kind of slow that, where you can really track it a lot better now than you could 100 years ago. But that's his marketing quote. And what we found over the time of doing this, I've seen the shift in the last 15 years. One of the first ads I purchased was an ad in ESPN the magazine. ESPN the magazine doesn't exist anymore, okay? At the time, in 2010, you used to buy a page in ESPN the magazine, and they would say, "Oh, we'll give you 500,000 digital impressions to go with that print ad." And slowly that kind of shifted to where now you're buying digital campaigns and spending X every month, and then they would throw in a page of the magazine until the magazine disappeared, okay? Advertising is so important that the SBA, everybody knows what the SBA is? The SBA, right on their website, there's the link, you can look it up. They reference the importance of having a marketing plan and a marketing strategy. Not a networking strategy, not a word of mouth strategy, but an actual advertising and marketing strategy. And this is taken right from their site. It says, they can vary, you can change it up, it should shift as you move around your business, as it grows, as it changes. But they see it to be so important for one reason and one reason only. They're giving you money, and they want their money back. And they know the only way to get their money back is for you to actually advertise a business, to actually put word out there that you can't just hang your shingle out, a sign out, and expect people to show up. So they think it's so important, so we think it's important. We want to make sure businesses understand the importance of actual advertising. There are really three main types of advertising. I included 2 additional ones on here, and I'll talk about them in a second, but the 3 types are direct response, brand awareness, and branding. Every bit of advertising falls in those 3 categories. Okay, I included networking and word of mouth on here because I hear from a lot of business owners that's what they do as their marketing. It's really not marketing. It's really not advertising. It is a form of marketing, but there are major issues with networking and word of mouth that can affect a brand drastically. And I'll give you one quick one. If I go to a B&I group and I meet somebody and they do their 30-second commercial and tell me what they do, their main focus of their brand may be their great customer service. Their focus of their brand may be, the great product that they offer. But when I tell you my product or service in a room full of 30 people and you all leave, my brand message gets diluted. I don't have the consistency of brand. So one person might hear something that they resonated about that 30-second commercial that I did, someone else might hear something different. So you lose a lot of the consistency of branding in networking. And word of mouth is great as well. I talk to a lot of business owners in Pasco County that will tell me, I've been here for 50 years, buddy, with your Yankee accent. I don't need your advertising or any of that stuff. The reality is we live in Tampa. The attrition and the cut rate of people that come in every single month into this market, you could be here for 50 years and there could be 20,000 people that move in tomorrow, especially in Pasco County, that don't know who you are, what you do, and frankly don't care. They're looking for the person that they need and they're going out and finding the people that are in front of them. So those 2 I discount a little bit. They're still good. I'm not going to say don't do them, but those 2 are not the real 3 pillars of advertising. And this is a little bit about each one of the 3. So direct response, we always joke that it was lotions, potions, and pills. It's cheap to make, it's cheap to put out, and it's cheap to the client. And what direct response would be is, you see an ad on TV at night, call 1-800-whatever, go to this website and buy whatever. If you buy right now, it's free shipping. If you buy it within 5 minutes, you get a second one for 50% off, a BOGO or an offer or a call to action. See it, buy it, use it, and get it. That's direct response. Brand awareness is a little bit different, and I always think of 2 main things with brand awareness. Number 1 is drug commercials. You guys have all heard them. Hey, take this drug, it'll help with your heartburn, but it's giving you arthritis and diarrhea and vomiting and all those other things, right? So those drug commercials have disclaimers. They need to educate you as the consumer that might take that drug. And the other big one with brand awareness, and those brand awareness commercials, just so you know, are usually 60 seconds, 120 seconds. They're a little longer because of the education. Or they might be like Chuck Norris and Christy Brinkley used to do the Total Gym. Those are like long form infomercials, like 28-minute infomercials. Those are brand awareness ads. Okay, everybody knows what a weight bench is or what a dumbbell is, but that bench you need to be educated on how to use it, how to put it away, how to load it up, how to get the tension and all that stuff. That's a brand awareness ad for 30 minutes, on and on and on and on. So that's what brand awareness is. But the third one is what everybody wants. It's branding. It's, I put up the golden arches and you know what you're looking at. I go da 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 da, and you know that that's a McDonald's commercial. That's branding. These are the brands you know, just a handful of them. You know what Chevy is. If I sung the heartbeat of them, if I sung Bob Seger, you'd kind of know the Chevy commercial. McDonald's, you know what that is. Everybody knows what that is. That's probably the most well-known brand in the world. The polar bear. Even if I took that Coke bottle out of that ad and you saw a polar bear with a red scarf, you kind of know it's Coca-Cola. Okay? Pepsi, the Michelin Man, you know. But why do you know that? Why are they so easily recognizable? There's a couple of reasons. Number 1, they have staff. They have the ability to staff. A lot of clients I deal with don't have the hundreds of millions of dollars that go and the resources to actually implement some of these strategies. Okay, so they have the staff to implement, they have the budget to spend, but one of the other really big components to it is product availability. If there was one McDonald's on the corner of Bruce B. Downs and 54, and everybody had to go there, you couldn't do the campaign the way they do it. It's available everywhere. So the availability, the budget, and the staff makes them a household name. Can small, medium-sized businesses get that way? Absolutely, you can do it. It's just how you target, and the way you target, and the geography that you target with. So everybody wants to get to that level of branding. But they have to understand, advertising is part art, and part science. It's really part math, but science sounds cooler than saying math. Math kind of sucks, it's boring. But the reality is, if someone comes to you as a business owner or comes to your partner and says, I'm going to guarantee your ROI on this campaign that we're going to do, whoever's telling you that is misleading you. They're lying. There are too many factors, the art of a marketing plan, of an advertising plan, that affect somebody from truly giving you a guarantee on an ROI. We can pick out the best audience for your brand, set them up in the right spot at the right time. Your ad can suck. It can be a bad ad. And I'll give you a quick example of this, okay? I work with a restaurant in Pasco County, right on 54, a pizza Italian restaurant. And the woman said, here's my ad. It was an alright ad. It said, we've been here 100 years and we use fresh tomatoes and fresh basil and fresh oregano. No person, does that make you guys feel like you want to go eat? Is because like they told me they had fresh ingredients? So we changed their ad and said, are you tired of cooking? Are the kids screaming in the background and you want to pick up a meal? Come visit us tonight. We'll let our family cook for your family. And all of a sudden, people started coming through the door. The art part of it is actually invoking an emotion within the consumer that gets them to show up. Now the math or the science part of it is how do we do that effectively to get people to connect. And one of the big things is consistency. We've covered it a couple times. It's kind of part of the topic of here. If you run an ad once or twice and expect people to show up, you might as well just flush money down the toilet. It's a waste of your advertising budget, okay? Another client, a guy, he actually didn't end up working with us right away, but we went in and we sat down with him and he gave me the laundry list. This didn't work, and that did. I did billboards for 2 months and it didn't work, and I did a bus route for 2 months and that didn't work. And he rattled off like 5 or 6 things. And when he got through them, I said, listen, I know why your marketing doesn't work. He said, well, tell me the secret. I'm like, there's no secret. You don't do it long enough. Nobody knows who you are. Okay, so the consistency of doing it is vitally important. And you can Google this. This isn't a Mike Sedita thing. This is actually real. Most of this stuff's real. Most of it, 80% is real. It's called the marketing rule of 7. It was developed in the 30s by movie executives. They wanted to figure out, in the 30s it was radio. Radio was the medium of the day. They wanted to figure out how many times does a consumer need to hear our ad for our Charlie Chaplin film to get them to actually show up. That was what it was. Okay, it's evolved since then. If you do a search for this and you Googled how many times does a consumer need to see a brand before it resonates with them, you'll see various stuff, from 7 to 18 times. How many times? And think about when you're going to buy something. You see an ad, whatever that is, I don't know. Second time you see it, that looks familiar. Third time you're like, I know that name. And as you see it a few more times, it starts to resonate. So that's why the consistency is so important. Running an ad for a med spa in Land O'Lakes, Florida twice on a billboard and making it go away, by the time someone starts to even remember the name, even if it's a unique name, even if it's a terrible name, actually, it's a terrible name. Even if it's that, people don't remember it enough to be able to go frequent it and use it. Okay, and then number 2 is content. What differentiates a brand? Okay, and I talked about this in the beginning really quick. It's authenticity of voice. Okay, so if there is 3 med spas lined up in a row, one just runs a billboard ad that I drive past at 50 miles an hour down 54 3 times a week. The other one is running a 30-second radio spot. Terrible idea, but there's no visual. It's a med spa. You want to have some visual, kind of. Or the third one creates content, either digitally, in print, somewhere where they convey their level of expertise to the consumer. If I'm that consumer and I'm reading you tell me about why I need semaglutide or tirzepatide or why I need Botox and the benefits of it and and I'm reading your expertise, I'm more likely to do more research on you to use you than someone I blow past at 50 miles an hour and have to remember 1-800-BOTOX or whatever their number is to try to remember that person. So that's the big component to the content, the consistency and the content. Why do we know content is so vital? TikTok. We have governments fighting over a social media platform, whether we use it or not. We won't get into the politics of it, but it's so viral that it makes waves. We know content works. TikTok is an example. But the next big thing we run into with a lot of business owners who advertise is this one big question. So this goes back to the John Wanamaker quote. We don't know how to quantify what works and what doesn't work, right? Digital helps us quantify some of that, QR coding, direct links to sites, etc., fill out forms. There's all sorts of ways to do that. But I have clients all the time that say, and I'll say it before I put on the next slide, is when you ask somebody where did they see you, it's around 80 to 90% of the people will respond Google. I saw it on Google. Okay, our brain does not function in a way where we remember the first place we saw it. We remember the last place we researched it. So what happens is, I drive down, even that billboard, that crappy billboard with 1-800-GOT-BOTOX on it. I remember 1-800-GOT-BOTOX. I don't know if you guys are like me. I pull out my phone. If I want to try to remember it, I might put it in my phone really quick. And then when I stop and I start to do my research, I go to Google. 1-800-BOTOX. Okay, let's see how many reviews they got. Let's see what this is. And we start to research them. By the time I go from seeing that billboard to walking through the door to get my Botox, I don't have Botox, by the way, that's just an example. And I walk in the door and they say, hey, where did you see our ad? And I go, I looked you up on Google. Because my brain doesn't function in a way to remember where I initially saw it because of time lapse. Okay, so a lot of times the battle we fight as an agency is explaining to clients that you have to be out there, you have to be consistent, you have to have that concept, that content. People are still gonna research you on Google and be able to look you up. So when they come in the door and say, I saw you on Google, if you're not advertising anywhere, how did they get to Google? So that's the conversation we have to have, that's the uphill battle we have as an agency to explain that to people. However, with these 4 simple questions, we can create a marketing plan for any business of any size, in any place, no matter what, no matter where. And I'm going to give you a couple of quick examples. These 4 questions resolve every issue to be able to determine how to market, okay? The first one is audience. And we always ask for a primary, a secondary, and a tertiary audience for a couple reasons, but the main one is if we're doing multiple ad creative in a campaign and we have 3 different audiences, we might create one set of ad creative to one audience, to another, and to another. So we can split it up and do what's called A/B testing within that campaign, and you can do it on any platform. It doesn't matter, digital, print, billboards, etc. The second one is location. Are you in Tampa? Are you in Florida? Are you national or are you international? Doesn't matter as long as we have that information. The third one is timing. You've heard me say consistency probably 16 times already in this presentation. Timing is important because we want that consistent branding, and I'll give you a couple of examples, but the timing for spikes. So I'll get into it in a second, but like if you're a generator company, okay, you want consistent branding all year long. But in December, right after people just got hit with back-to-back hurricanes last year, I want to up my advertising in December because people have just suffered the emotion of losing something or being afraid of a storm coming. They're at the top of their mind at that point in time in December and January is, man, we need a generator for next year. So you want to spike your timing at those different times. HVACs, it's kind of in the spring. Generators, it's kind of right after that hurricane season. And then the $1 million question, as a marketing agency, I hope it's always a $1 million question, but whatever the number is, it doesn't matter. What is the budget? Everybody guards their budget like it's the Holy Grail because they think as soon as they tell me their budget, I'm going to go spend their money. The key is understanding you don't want to have champagne dreams and a Bud Light budget when you're putting together a campaign for a client. A perfect example is one I'm working on right now. There's a new reality show coming out. I work with the production company. They're putting out this, has anybody here reality TV? I'm going to raise my hand. I can see a couple people. You might need to not say people. This new show is coming out. It's a reality show, and they said, oh, we want to be on radio and social media. We want to do engagement on air with talent. We want to be on the Today Show. We want to have the Cube in Times Square. They wanted all this stuff. I said, well, what's your budget? For a 10-day campaign, the end of this month, end of August, they have a $25,000 budget. He said, oh, guys, we can do that maybe in Oklahoma City, you know, and maybe get some of that stuff. So level setting the champagne dreams with the Bud Light budget is important. So asking for budget, we always do that because we want to know where to focus our attention. And to give you a couple quick examples, Welch's. Welch's audience, primary audience was women 25 to 54 with children, putting snacks in their lunch.
The second audience was more women 25 to 54, that professional on the go that needs something to grab for the middle of the day when she's tired. They didn't have a tertiary audience. Their location was national. Their timing was back to school. It said July to September, but it was really July to August, that late July to early August when kids were just going back to school. In the South, kids go back to school in early August. In the Northeast, they go back in September, so in that range. And they spent $2 million, one shot, boom, every summer. $2 million, and the way we reached their audience was through what we would call like rag titles, and you'll see them next time you go to Publix. It's First for Women, it sits on the right by the cash register. That's kind of a rag title. They wanted to target the women in those areas. Marie Claire, Red Book, First for Women, books like that, that's how we targeted them with that campaign. But you'll see that's Welch's, that's $2 million. This is a local HVAC company we worked with in Pasco County. Their audience, primarily adults 25 plus that are homeowners. Secondary, adults 25 plus that have commercial properties or rental properties. Their AC breaks just as much as everybody else. And third was women 25 plus that are the household decision makers. I know when stuff breaks at the house, I get that information downloaded from my significant other. So, and I don't want to sound sexist, that's just the way the house operates. It's the way a lot of houses operate, that's the way they wanted to target, okay? Location, Pasco and Hillsborough County, that's the only places their vans go. They don't want to cross this bridge and go to Pinellas County, don't blame them. They want to stay there. So that's their audience. They're year-round timing, but they spiked in the spring. They wanted to spike in the spring to say, hey, service your AC unit now so we can prepare for summer. And you can see the budget. The other one was $2 million, this one's $50,000. So it doesn't matter. As long as you answer those 4 questions, you can get to the end of the road where you need to be. Okay, allocating budget. Really quickly blow through this. There's a lot of information on this slide. Survey chief marketing officers. They said in this response 2 big things. Number 1, industry leaders established themselves. They established themselves as in-house experts, okay, and an authority by using content, and then having a good website SEO optimized. There's a lot of stuff you can do now with websites where you can create a 1-page website that works and functions really well. Lead capture. This is a digital conference. You guys are learning all about that in AI and other sessions. That's not what this is. But I put this in here specifically because it's talking to chief marketing officers, asking them what do they think is important, and they're telling you content and having good connection to the consumer through the website. Okay, and then the last part I will tell you on the bottom is, per this Hinge marketing survey, more than 50% of buyers read articles or publications to learn more about a topic. That goes back to the Google that I was talking about a minute ago. People do their research. We live in society now, when you used to go buy a car 30 years ago, you walked on the lot and said, hey, what's the price? And they, boom, this is the price, and you buy it and you go. Now, people walk into a car dealership, they already know what the price is, they know what the cost is, they know what the holdback is, they know all that. We have the ability to do research, and that's what people do. That's Google, through white papers, through publications, through resources that they can grab. You want to take it, I'll hold that up there for a second if you want a picture of that one. Okay, and then this is a really big one right here. So if you guys need help with any of this stuff, you can click on my QR code. That's a 15-minute qualification meeting with me to talk about what you might need or partners you might have that we might be able to help. But the big part of this slide is really understanding the 70-20-10 rule for allocating your marketing budget, okay? The 70 is allocating 70% of your budget towards strategies that you know work. Whether your industry, whether that's print, whether that's digital, whether that's TV, whatever it is, you want to allocate. So if you take your budget, whatever that number is, you take that budget, you allocate 70% to the stuff that's working. Okay, the 20% is new strategies. Hey, 15 years ago, social media was a new strategy. Today, and then the slide is a little backwards, it says AI on the bottom. AI is a new strategy that you should start to be allocating some of your marketing budget towards to do that. Okay, so the 70-20-10 rule, the blue chip stuff is 70, 20 is emerging, and then 10 is like, hey, I'm just gonna experiment. Let me see how this works. Let me take 10% of my budget. I'm going to the craps table in Vegas. It's a little bit of roulette, but you want to try it because you may hit it, and maybe a new thing that you find that works. So you want to use that as a kind of a template. And then how do we, through the stuff you have on the table, help local, small, medium-sized businesses become a household name? Our main focus in those magazines is affluent, single-family homeowners with household incomes in excess of $150,000 and home values in excess of $600,000.
That is the holy grail of consumer. They spend money, they need things, they have the resources to buy them, that's the holy grail. So how do we create that content and that consistency to get brands to be resonating with that audience? We do it by taking not a shotgun approach, but a super targeted sniper approach by micro-targeting areas, using content and telling your story. And we do it two main ways. So number one, a little more broad reach, but we use the Branding Highway podcast. Like I said, we have about 25,000 followers. We share on our social channels. So one of the things we do is we interview business owners. If you go to 16wmediagroup.com, you can see all about our publishing, all about the podcast. You can book an interview on the podcast right there. And what we do with that is this. We interview you about your business. You tell us who you are, what you do, okay? We get to know you personally. Authenticity sells. Authenticity creates resonation, and that's what people want to do business with. But then we talk about a topic, usually from your frequently asked questions within your website, and then we take that 20 to 30 minute infomercial and cut it into a month's worth of social media content for you. We don't license it back to you. We put it in a Google Drive. You own it. You can use it on your channels and do whatever you want with it. We share it on our channels to help promote your brand. And then we do kind of like you're doing with this, where you're sharing and posting here and hashtagging and all that stuff. So we do that through the podcast. That's number one. You get to speak to your audience in your own voice. They get to hear who you are and how you come through and how you present. Really works. Okay. Number two is what's called an expert contributor. And you'll see them in those magazines. Okay, there's two big components to being an expert contributor in one of our publications. Number one, you have like a J.D. Powers directory. In every publication, 36 issues in a row, your name, address, website, phone number, headshot. You can see we got Norman as the Chief Marketing Officer up there in the top right. He writes expert content about marketing. And then what we do is we put that out every month so everybody has that information. But then, 4 times a year, you, as the expert, get to create content about your brand. So now we're doing it in audio format with the podcast, we're doing it in print format with the publications, hyper-targeting in an area that people distribute to. And you'll see, this is one of our real estate agents up in Wesley Chapel. She's talking about market updates. I'll give you a market update. Real estate in Florida sucks right now. Okay, it's hard to sell because interest rates, whatever. She gets to write that and tell people why. So if I'm looking at the 500 realtors in Wesley Chapel that are out there with a yard sign, or I'm reading her article, figuring out how smart she is about that market, who am I going to use? Who am I going to want to at least talk to is her. Content sells, consistency sells. And then there's another one, a chiropractor. Chiropractor's another one. I could throw a rock and probably hit 10 chiropractors just here at Rocky Point. Okay? What do we do as an agency for businesses to help them, for agency partners that we work with? Simple. It's one point of contact. All of these things we can do for an end client or work with an agency. We have community distribution at a local level. We run meta ads, okay? Through Best Virgin Media, which is my partner, my vendor with the magazines, we buy meta so much. We're buying 3 to 4 billion impressions a month. We buy nationally. We're in Canada, the United States, all over North America. We're buying billions of impressions a month. I can get a under $7 CPM, cost per thousand, on Facebook impressions and display ad impressions. I tell people every day, I have this conversation, hey, your local HVAC company, go find your buddy. Go find your kid in high school, go talk to whoever you want and try to put together a Facebook campaign. I guarantee you I can get you more impressions for less money or less cost per thousand than any of them can do. Not because I'm better, it's just because I buy in such a huge volume over everybody else. We do meta, display, the podcast, brand design, changing the ad to, are you hungry for pizza tonight, or whatever the ad's gonna be. Websites, right? We talked about building one-page websites. You guys are all digital folks, I'm not gonna get into that, because you probably do better than me, probably do a lot of it better than me. But we can do that, create that. Reputation management is another big one. We just talked about Google for a couple minutes. Reputation management is important. The first thing people do when they see the billboard, they go and look you up on Google. Hey, how many reviews do you have? Are they 5-star? Are they 3-star? And I don't know if you guys are like me, I always go to the 1-star one. I want to look at the 1-star one first. I want to see who they pissed off and how long ago it was to see if maybe their business is improved or if that's real recent. You know, and you'll see it. I mean, the ones from 4 years ago, look at that. I'm a fat guy trapped in this body, okay? A Chinese restaurant, trying to find a Chinese restaurant in Apollo Beach, Florida? Good luck with that, right? So I go and look on the Google reviews. 5 years ago, they were all 5-star. Somebody bought it out, and now they're all 1-star. That's what we do. We go and do the research, but we can help you create brand management. We can go and help you integrate into your business one dashboard to make sure all your information is correct on the internet, because that's another big one people run into. They have their information is wrong. I looked you up on Yelp, you're open until 9 o'clock. I came at 8, but you closed 2 hours ago because the information is wrong. We streamline that, make sure your reputation management is right, and we do it all with one single point of contact, me and my team, which you'll see them in the magazine as well. One single point of billing, and we try to make it simple, easy, and effective. And our goal is to, for the small business owner, you have a million other things. You're an entrepreneur. You're going in 100 different directions every day. You wake up with the greatest intention of just going out and doing sales, and you wake up and there's a fire that has to be put out everywhere. Our goal is to take the marketing off your plate and make it easier. For agencies and partners, we can white label any of this stuff. We can create lines of revenue for your business as an agency or a partner to be able to offer our services through your agency, through a markup or a fee or a flat fee or however you want to do it. So our goal is to partner and help businesses grow. My favorite expression is this: there are only so many yachts to water ski behind. Okay, we live in the Tampa market. It's growing, it's busy, it's bustling. Okay? Rising tides lift all boats. If we work together as partners and agencies, we want to make your business successful, we want to help your agency grow, we want to be able to be a partner in the community, and that's what we do. Everything you see here, everything on those tables is community. Families, pets, kids, growing small to medium-sized businesses to make them bigger businesses. This is why I love what we do, okay? This is a woman I put on the cover of Wiregrass Living magazine. She sent me a text. Hey, all the neighbors love the article. They're asking for our autograph. I went to work out and the instructor told the group, I'm a celebrity. Thanks again for picking us. We are so proud. When a resident in a community that I work in is sending me a text telling me how they're proud they are to be a part of the community, we know we're doing good stuff in the community. And that's what we're trying to do. Okay, and then this is the last one. This is the resident in Starkey Ranch, said to me, hey Mike, my son plays quarterback, flag football quarterback. His team, he's aged out, he needs to get on another team. I said, oh, I just happened to interview the director of the Suncoast Lions on the podcast the other day. Let me make a connection. 3-way text. A week later, I get a text. My son is now the starting quarterback for the Suncoast Lions. Okay? Thank you. He is so excited. Only thing I can say back is, when is the first game so I can come and see this kid play? That's what we're trying to do in the community. We're trying to give back and be a part of the community through advertising and helping brands grow. So that is the entirety of my presentation. You can scan the QR code, get out my calendar if you want to learn a little bit more, just have a discussion about, maybe there's a question you want to ask that you don't get in here right now. Our number, 8634-NORMAN. So he is the brand, 863-466-7626. It'll take you right into our phone bank system. And please, go to 16wmediagroup.com, research my Google review. Go Google me. Google the reviews and check it out and see. We have 5-star reviews. We work to the best of our ability with integrity. We treat people with respect. We want to make sure we are an asset to our community. So with that said, there's about 6.5 minutes left. Do you guys have any questions for me? We'll throw that cube at you and you can chime into it and see if there's anything you want to ask. It could be about my Travis Scott's. It could be about Norman. It could be about whatever. Please throw it at me. Nothing. Oh, whew.
I'm not a proud.
Yeah, bro.
Nice shoes though.
Appreciate you, man. You too. I like those. I was gonna wear those, but I've been purple. It would have been a little too much. It wouldn't have went with my shirt.
So I've got a question, primarily about the marketing budget. You mentioned the marketing budget. The change in marketing budget, so I'm kind of out of my element here.
Okay.
So I'm just curious. Change in marketing budget from like startups to build brand companies.
Right.
Specifically, like, do you shift that marketing budget from building that brand at a certain point to like a product-driven marketing budget? Like, so I know you mentioned the 70-20-10
Right.
split. Can you give some insight on maybe like as you build that brand, how you see marketing budgets being spent?
Yeah, so great question. So what happens a lot of times, it really does depend, and this is why we use the 4 questions, right? So it depends on the product, it depends on the brand, right? So how I would market a shake weight versus how I would market a law firm. Now there's some law firms that market like a shake weight, like Morgan & Morgan. They're everywhere, they want you to call them, that's a different way. So what you're asking is how do we transition from the infancy stage of building the business to when we get to that point? And it's a hard scale to grade on because it really just depends on when your brand starts to get traction, right? So and what happens a lot of times, I'll give you a great example, and I'll try to do this in real quick so we can get another question if we need it. One of my favorite clients, I did Welch's Fruit Snacks, I spent a boatload of money, it was great, right? My favorite client I ever worked on was a company called BioLife. They were based in Sarasota, and they had a product called Wound Seal. It was a blood coagulant. So if you cut yourself, instead of putting Band-Aids, you could coagulate the blood. I started with them in 2010. They hired me as their agency. They were spending $300 a week buying newspaper ads. Because who reads newspaper ads? Old people on blood thinners, right? They had one shelf in Walgreens in Sarasota, Florida. That's the only place you could buy them. And if you're in the consumer packaged goods or the over-counter pharmaceuticals, whatever, shelf space is like gold, okay? We smartly and effectively bought newspaper ads in Sarasota, then we went to Tampa, then we went to Miami, and we bought them on what's called standby, okay? In Atlanta, when I lived in Atlanta, to buy a one-page ad in the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, a newspaper, for one day, one issue was $8,000. But if you bought it on standby, I could buy that same $8,000 ad for $185. It's crazy, right? I heard somebody gasp, it's crazy. It's called standby. The way you buy standby is, I don't care when my ad runs in a 2-week window, I know it's gonna run, but if I don't have a brick and mortar shop that I need somebody to buy to come for like a Memorial Day sale, I don't care when the ad runs, okay? So we would run standby for these guys. They only had one shop at the time, we were buying cheap. As they expanded, we kept buying standby. Then we bought Florida. They got from one Walgreens to all of the state of Florida Walgreens. Then they gave us all of Arizona Walgreens, another retiree state. Okay, so they were rolling it out properly. By the time they were bought out by another drug company, and I was out as the agency, because when that happens, somebody else comes in, they were in every Walgreens and every CVS across the entire United States. And we built their entire campaign using newspaper ads on standby, and we followed snowbirds. So in the winter, we did Florida, Texas, Arizona, and in the summer, we did Minnesota, Pennsylvania, Ohio, and the Northeast. So how do we get to that transition on the scale? Every company is going to be different. And how do we reallocate the money? I don't know how they reallocated it once the new agency took over, but we got them to that point where you're talking about, where now they're going to reallocate their budget. So every business is different. There's no real roadmap for that to say, at month 3 you do this, at month 6 you do this. But the key in the beginning, depending on having a good call to action for your business, depending on what you're selling, and have a differentiator that helps you to kind of get to that point where now they know your brand, where they see the logo, or they hear your jingle, or whatever that is. So, and the other one I'll give you that's a really good one, a small, medium-sized business that I think had good branding. They're tough, you don't see them a lot now anymore. I don't know how many people are from kind of specifically this area or the west coast of Florida. There used to be an exterminator company called Simply Nolan. They still exist, okay? I don't know if you guys are all familiar with them. They had little VW Bugs, was their car. Everybody drove that, and they put stupid little ears on them, like Mickey Mouse and rats. Okay, that's good branding. I didn't have to necessarily know Simply Nolan. They're not a household name necessarily, but I knew the brand, I knew the car, and I knew that that's who they were. So they got to a point where they just had to drive those cars around, and it was a walking, living, breathing billboard. And the big other thing to keep in mind too is your marketing is an ever evolving, like that SBA thing says, it should ever evolve. You should always be evaluating and reevaluating and reevaluating. Bigger brands, we used to do quarterly meetings where we would check in and see what was going on. Some of my local businesses, we meet like once a month. We'll talk a little bit about what's happening, what we can tweak and do and change. So we're really right to the limit here. Eric's gonna kick me off and Gong show me here in a second. Any other questions? Go ahead. Throw the cue better.
So you said how you started a few media buying marketing agencies and recently opened one down here in Florida. So how do you start growing that business when like you're changing locations? How are you building that clientele?
Great question. Absolutely great question. So I am a damn Yankee. I moved to Tampa June 2nd of 2019. My brother had passed away and I had to take care of my dying parents. I had an agency that I talked to national brands. I didn't really do anything here, but I needed to be here. I joined the Chamber of Commerce. I joined the Rotary Club. I'm a Rotarian. I joined the B&I group. Hated the B&I group. I'm not here to down B&I. I just didn't like it. It wasn't a valuable use of my time. The Rotary I use for philanthropy. I'm making up for all the silly stuff I did in my 20s. Now in my 50s, I'm giving back to the community, but I'm doing that through the Rotary. But I do build relationships that way. And then from getting my name out there, I use the same stuff everybody else uses. I was just showing somebody, I think I was showing Eric a minute ago, I use Facebook, the lead generator on Facebook. I target ads in specific geographic locations. I have a lead funnel on my phone. If I pull it up here in a second, I'll see text messages, 3 o'clock in the morning, midnight. My ads are working for me all night long. So if I didn't come here to speak this morning, I would be calling the 14 or 15 leads that came through on my system. And then I would be working through them just like every other business does. Hey, I do a quick qualification call. Tell me a little bit about your business so that I can get to those 4 questions and be able to kind of get them to the finish line to understand you need a marketing budget. You need a minimum of X to play in the sandbox. So I went out the same way every other business does. I use the resources that I have. I use social media. If you try to follow me, it's hard not to. I mean, I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on TikTok, I'm on Instagram, Facebook. I have every one of my magazines has a Facebook page. My podcast has a Facebook page. My ad agency has a Facebook page. I'm in social media hell with all that stuff, but thankfully I have a team that manages it, that kind of keeps everything on track for me. And you guys may have talked about some of this stuff. I'll give you one nugget of AI before they kick me off. If you do any video content, look up something called Opus.pro. You're familiar with it, right? It is phenomenal. I take a 30-minute podcast and cut it into a month's worth of social media content, click, and then cut it the way I need to do it. That is my digital takeaway out of all this content talk. Opus.pro is phenomenal. It will save you thousands of hours over the course of a year to be able to build content that's easily disseminable because you can tie, like I said, I just have all these social channels. They're all tied into Opus. I create video content, and it just goes where I need it to go. I might have to do a little tweaking here and there, but can I get one more? Can I?
I think we're at time, right?
Give him one more. Take 5
Oh, I'm
minutes.
stepping on you, I'm
No,
sorry.
you're not. Take a couple more minutes of my time.
Go ahead.
Oh yeah, so I'm in B2B marketing and our biggest channel is like email and we use a lot of content for syndicating that and just
Like blog posts, that type of stuff?
like high quality like downloadable like PDFs or like thought leadership articles and stuff like that. I'm wondering if I know a lot of your experience is in B2C, I imagine you have some B2B experience. So I'm just curious quickly what kind of B2B content tips or ideas or
So the last real B2B heavy campaign I did was for a dermatologist that did, they had a drug that was only available to doctors, like it couldn't be sold to consumer. So we did a lot of campaigns through a lot of trade publications and a lot of trade blogs and things like that. If you want, because I know I don't want to step on my guys' time, so, yeah, just hit me up and we can sit down and kind of go over some of the stuff we're doing and anything I can do to help provide a resource. I'm a big believer in paying it forward. Like, look, I'd love to get paid. Money's my favorite, well, other than my fiance, money's my second favorite thing, okay? And well, Norman, her, and then money. But if I can help somebody grow their business or provide some insight, please, feel free. Hit me up, find me, come get me, and we'll connect.
Yeah, you'll hang out for a little bit.
Yeah, I'll hang out for a little bit,
So,
yeah.
take questions
Awesome.
then, but thank you so
Thank you,
much.
guys. I appreciate your time.
And great job, thank you so much, yeah. So anyone who uses their adorable pup as a mascot definitely knows a lot about marketing and branding, I should say that. So definitely wanna